Welcome to Always Ageless with Valerie V. I'm your host, Valerie Van de Zilver. Here we dive into the vibrant, dynamic world of living life fully as an aging and mature adult. Whether you're an active, mature adult, you're the adult child of aging parents, this show is your go-to source for inspiration. We will give you practical advice. We'll give you amazing stories of aging adults who are doing incredible things. We'll tell you where's the best places to go, things to do. And we bring you interviews with experts and extraordinary individuals who prove that life after 55 is anything but ordinary. So tune in, stay curious, and join us on this journey to living an interesting, fun, productive, and safe life. And we'll show you that life after 55 is anything but boring. We will show you how to be bold, not old. Today, we have an amazing guest. We are so blessed today to have a very special lady with us. This lady, believe it or not, yesterday turned 105 years old. Our guest is Alice Dieckilman. Alice has had an amazing life, and she has so many stories to tell. And all of our listeners and viewers and friends say, please put Alice on your show. We want to hear her stories. So you can see that she looks pretty amazing for her age, but true story, just yesterday, October 18th, she turned 105 years old. Alice, welcome to our show. Welcome to Always Ageless.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here. And I do have a lot of stories. There's so many, can't tell them all.
So we'll have time for a few of them, that's for sure. Yes. And just so our listeners and our viewers know, Alice happens to be my mom. I'm one of 4 children, and Alice has an amazing story, amazing life, so many stories to tell. We want to be sure that we share them with you all. So we're going to, we don't think we can tell them all in one episode. So we're going to break this up into segments because she has so many stories to tell. So be sure to stay tuned and listen. You won't want to miss any of these. We're going to start, Alice, by telling everyone that, first of all, you are child number 8 of 16 children. Correct, right?
Correct.
So share what it was like to grow up in such a large family.
Well, sometimes it's like a day, it passes by, we do our thing and we play with each other. And the first recollection I can have is when after the war ended, is when I was born that next year. And then my dad, so we lived in a place called Rhode Island, Iowa, or actually it was on the across the river from it in Illinois. And my dad wanted to go to the service, but he couldn't go because he had too many children. And so he said, well, he wanted to help the war effort. And so he said, let's move to Rock Island, Illinois, where the munitions factory was.
Oh.
And so there he worked in the munitions factory instead of building houses, which he couldn't build because of the war. So I was born the year after it ended. That's pretty soon after it ended. And then so my father decided that we would move away from there. So the first recollection I have is standing on, apparently he took part of the family and went on with trucks with all our possessions and left my mother and my younger sister 2 years younger than I. And we took the train over from Rock Island, Illinois to Blue Island, Illinois.
My goodness.
Under Chicago.
Because you had too many children to move all at one time?
Yes.
Oh,
I have a picture of that where my sister and I, and she's 2 years younger than I am. So that means like I was about 4 years old, okay, when we moved to Blue Island. And so we rented a house there, and we had a lot of company, and I had an Uncle Charlie's that lived close to someplace around Chicago, and he came to see us quite often. And yeah, so he thought my younger sister was pretty cute. She was always saying cute things, so he bought her a red rocking chair
Oh,
one time and didn't buy me one.
oh, that's not
And
good.
I'm guessing I sort of shed some tears about that, felt by, and I remember my mother saying, don't do that again. If you buy Beatrice something, you have to bring Alice something. So he brought me a chair,
Oh,
and the next time he came, and I felt very badly about that because I cried for it, and I didn't think that was a very nice thing to do.
so even at that small age, your parents had taught you so how to be a nice girl and what were the nice things to
Right,
do.
right.
Well,
And I had an Uncle Walter, one of my father's brothers, said we had a little apartment downstairs in the basement and they
sure.
needed a place to live, so they came and stayed there for a while. And she had two daughters there.
Oh, my goodness.
And then, so they didn't stay very long though, because Dad figured we had a big enough family and that he needed a place of his own. So then we moved on from there to Homewood, Illinois.
Yes.
And that's where I was then until I started school. And so my brother had to walk me to school 2 miles to go to school. And I really don't know why, but I just didn't want to go to school for some reason or other. And so I stayed home. Finally, the teacher, and I remember my two teachers, beautiful teachers, and they were so nice to me, but I cried
Oh,
and I wanted to go home.
oh,
And so the teacher had one of my brothers, who was in 8th grade then, had to take me home. And
oh,
he walked me home. And then I got home and I didn't have anything to do. Everybody was in
right,
school
because all
but
the kids were
Alice.
in school but you, sure.
Right. So I begged my dad to take me to work with him. He was building houses again. And so I wanted to go to work with him. So he finally caved in and I put these little tiny ceramic tiles on the fireplace. He kept finding me things
Little
to do.
jobs, yeah, yeah.
Right, little jobs to do, and I do them. And so that night I remember so clearly that he said, I can't take Alice with me anymore because I give her something to do and she gets it done too quick. And then I can't get my work done because I have to find something else for her to
Oh, my
do.
goodness. Oh, gosh.
So I never got to go to work with him anymore.
Oh,
And so I stayed home and played. And the neighbors across the street were Dutch, and they had it was a nice family, and they had some children. So once in a while we'd get together while somebody wasn't there. In the winter, we lived in a great big house, and my father would have my oldest brother build a big hill, and on one side of the house we had a woods,
sure.
and so we had a pathway all the way across that woods so that we could go to school and walk down the sidewalk. And so he'd ice that and we'd get on our sleds and we'd
Of
go
course
down
you
the
would.
pathway
Of course you
for the
would.
winter. Had wonderful time
Of course.
on the sleds. And so then that point on then, and then of course then I went to school the next year. And then when I was that was young enough to be in a musical of some sort, and they needed somebody that could sing and Jolly Old Dear Santa.
And so you were the one that got
so I was
chosen.
the one because I could carry a tune, they said. So we did that, and then from that point on, it came to the point where the depression hit.
Well, let's hold that thought. We have some
All
story
right.
we want you to bring up before that. So you were one of 16 children,
Right.
all right? And so did your mom seem to enjoy having a big family?
She did. And my oldest sister and her were very close because she was the second child she had. And so they'd talk about buying material to sew for dresses for me for school and everybody else. And so
So
yeah.
your mom sewed your dresses, sewed your clothes?
Right, right.
And she and
My
your
mom-
older
my
sister
older
planned?
sister.
Yeah, and she and your older sister both sewed, or they
Yes.
just planned the
Oh,
purchases
they
together?
both sewed.
Oh, they did.
Yes,
And so
yes.
they sewed for all the girls?
Yes.
That's
Right.
great.
On
And
a
that's where you
on a
got your,
treadle machine.
oh, my
No
goodness.
electric.
My goodness.
right,
So that's where you got your love of sewing, which we'll talk about later on.
always
Certainly,
sewing.
always you were, always were.
Always.
So it's interesting that you were at the child number 8. So that put you to where you knew all the older kids
Mhm,
and you knew all the younger kids,
right,
right? Because you knew the older kids because they were home when you were born and the little kids were born after you.
right.
So that's a great position to be in. Did you have any favorites or did you love everybody? Because they all kind of came and went, right? You were in the middle of that.
Well, it seemed like the ones that were closer to you are the ones that you played with.
Sure.
So, and we went out and we had this one section next to the corner. We lived on a corner of two highways. And it was a big woods. And so my father would take us out there and he'd whistle and sing the birds' songs. And he could whistle every bird that you heard. And then we'd have, if we find a bird that had died, well, then we'd
Oh,
have a little moss with fix a little cemetery thing
for the little
him,
birds.
right.
Oh,
But I remember him singing, and I thought it was so terrific that your dad could sing the birds and sound just like the birds.
that's amazing.
And yeah,
That's interesting that you
of
could do
course,
that.
we had a lot of birds then.
So when you played at home, what kind of things did you do? Did you ever play games or puzzles, or did you always play outside?
Well, we had little. Sometimes we did cooking. We had little cooking kettles, and that's when you could buy a little kettle for a nickel.
Yeah,
And at Christmas time,
sure.
why we're given a quarter to buy each one a present. And it didn't get much for that, but that's the way it went. And of course, then we had the Christmas tree, of course.
Well,
And
let's hold on to Christmas. Let's go back to our game. So did you play together?
we did,
you play-
we played together. And I have quite a few pictures of, one was in front of a great big lilac tree, which was beautiful. And my sister, 2 years younger than I am, are in that picture with her, and I played together with her for a long time. And then at that point, then life went on and with the playing times and so forth. And my dad had a lot of relatives, and so they were there every weekend, and we had a big hill on one side of the house. And I remember on Halloween, especially, it's about Halloween now, and so it reminds me of the parties. He let the 2 older kids have parties for their friends, and we always have hot dogs and marshmallows and on this great big hill.
Is that right?
Yes, and it had bonfire up there.
Huh,
And every weekend there was relatives of my dad, sometimes his first children from his first family
right.
were there, and everybody had a good time.
So
And-
let's talk about that. So your dad was married to a lady first who
Yes.
happened to pass away. So
Yes,
and she had 5, and they had 5 children together.
yes,
5 girls, correct?
Yes,
All
yes.
girls.
right,
So you are the stepsister to those 5 girls.
right,
And then you have 16 of your own family that from your own mom.
right,
So you really were that puts you one of 21 children,
right,
right?
right.
That's just pretty incredible. And
But
did you ever see the girls?
Well, when they would come to visit, because they were teenagers
Oh,
by
of
the
course,
time.
sure, by that
no,
time,
By that time, they were teenagers.
sure.
And they didn't live with us either. 2 of the girls, 2 of my favorite that I learned to know really well even when was growing up, I'd go see them. And I took my sisters around to meet them and so forth. So we knew who they were. And so the closest one was in Kokomo, Indiana, and they were around. They had one daughter. So they just for the most part, one of my uncles took 2 of the good kids, and my grandmother said, "You're not going to put all those children on a young wife, so they can stay with me." So
Sure.
his mother took the children, and he had a sister that never married.
And so she took some of them
Yeah,
also?
well, she lived with my grandmother.
Oh, that was nice.
Yes,
That was nice.
so she helped raise the kids and taught them if they had to be there and had school lessons. They like the home silk style. They wanted those kids to have home. My mother said get them to
Sure.
school because she was a school teacher. She
Your
taught,
mother was a school teacher.
yes, she
Right.
taught. She taught a one-room schoolhouse,
Of course.
which of course, which one I have to tell you that Burl Ives was in that class,
Is that right?
and my youngest,
What an amazing memory.
right, my youngest, my mother's youngest sister, used to go off to school with him.
Is that right?
And
What a great story.
yes, and she was a doll, and I loved her, and she would she died at 96 years old, and I miss her a great deal. But
Yep.
and her,
Well, yeah, you have a lot of stories of longevity.
yes.
So,
Yes.
so Alice, what are some of your fondest memories of growing up in a big family and in the family that you had?
Well, we all, of course, had to help each other, and especially our parents, and we knew what our duties were.
Mhm.
And because I was in the middle of the family, and we moved to the farm then, of course, then after we left Blue Island and came to Indiana, and then we finally moved to a farm. So because I was the middle child and old enough to help my dad, then that was my job to help him. So
So that's kind of what you remember, what your fondest memory was, helping your dad?
I think so.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Uh.
So tell us about, so you worked on the farm and I kind of want to hold off on this. There are so many amazing stories about working on the farm. And with your brothers and sisters, did you have any family traditions, things that were special to your family? How did you celebrate Christmas and your
Well,
birthdays?
Christmas, yes, that definitely. Uh, when people raise their children, then the main thing was to be seen and not to be heard.
In those days,
So when you had company, you were sitting all dressed up and you stayed in the sessions where they were talking, but you were, like a vase of flowers or something,
Sure.
And so you didn't do much talking to them, but you always behaved yourself around them.
Sure.
And
how did you celebrate birthdays?
yeah, I really don't honestly remember, except that I know that for one thing, that when we had cakes, that we didn't have all the icing that you have now.
Is that right?
Yeah, it was plain cake with maybe icing on top, or powdered sugar on top of a cake.
Is that right?
Yes.
And what about Christmas?
Christmas, we look forward to. The shopping was always an excitement because we got to go with our parents, and they gave us a quarter apiece to buy presents for the kids. You buy something for a nickel for one of them, and
Sure.
and so forth. And I remember getting the little kettles and so forth that I had. And so I don't think I have any more of them now, but that's what we did. Bought some little thing, a little purse or a little things like that.
And how did you celebrate Christmas? Did Santa come down the chimney and did you have a
No,
pretty Christmas? Did you have live trees like we have?
we had a live tree, big
You
live
did?
tree. We
You
had,
did.
our ceilings were high in that big house that we lived in at that point. And they had candles on them and decorations, of course, but my dad would never light the candles unless he was there. And so we'd sit around the living room with them, the candles lit. But he never left the room with us with the candles on the tree.
And how did you attach the candles? Did you have little clips or something?
They're like little clips that you clipped on.
And you had white candles?
Colored candles.
Colored candles?
Yeah.
Like red or green?
Red and green, different colors. Yeah.
And then your dad literally lit them with a match?
Yes.
Huh, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yes. But they never stayed lit when we was out of the room.
Of course not.
He wouldn't permit that.
Of course not.
So.
And then did you sing Christmas carols? Did you all come together Christmas morning? Was he Santa Claus?
I don't remember that.
Is that right?
He could have been, you don't remember everything, but I don't think he ever played Santa Claus. So.
That wasn't his role, huh?
Right.
And
but-
did everybody come together for Christmas? Were your brothers and sisters all home for
Always,
Christmas?
always.
Everybody came home.
always.
How great, how fun that you did
Yeah.
that.
Mhm. Yeah,
So when you, do you have any, so what kind of games and activities you played outside pretty
we
much?
played outside a lot. In the winter time, of course, it was sliding with the sleds and down the pathway on the way that we took through the woods to the sidewalk to walk to school. And it was just kind of a temporary thing that my dad would say, go build you a big hill. And then we'd take our sled up the little great big pile of snow that had frozen.
Sure.
And then we'd go all the way down through the woods area and on the pathway. And that was fun. That was just really a great, I'll never forget that. That was something we really looked forward to that.
Now, at a
So-
point in your life, in your childhood, you moved to the farm. Tell us about what took you to the farm, because that was a very important point in your life.
Yeah, right. Well, then the depression hit, of course. Before that, things were good. I'll have to tell you this one thing that my dad would go out and one time he bought 10 bushels of apples. And we had lived in a big house and every floor was the same size. And we had what you call a dumb waiter. That's
Sure.
a big square area with a great big twine rope that you pull up and down. And we had fun doing that too.
Sure, of
That
course.
was one of the things we did. Can we go up the dumb waiter, Mom? And we go all the way up to the third floor, and that was our play place. That's where our toys were. And then we had the living room that you never used except when you had company.
Of course.
And then other time and of course we had basin. So my mom would go down and sort the apples out almost every day. I remember those 10 bushels of apples. And then he'd buy boxes of figs and things like that and put them in an extra bedroom that we never used. Even with all those children, we still had we had two sides of the house. One was for the boys and one was for the girls.
Is that right?
Yes, and great big steps to go up. So,
And did you raise during the Depression, then you started raising your own food? Is that correct?
right, from that point on, the Depression hit. And of course, my dad had 5 houses he was building and there was no money to complain so we walked away from that. It was in LaGrange, Illinois, and we walked away from the 5 and went into, we heard there was, my dad heard there was work in Indiana, so we went to Indiana. And we couldn't take our toys because the truck was so loaded with all the things that we needed, that he said he'd buy us toys when he got over there and got a job. Well, so happened that the Depression hadn't gotten any place yet, and so nobody had jobs that at all, and we moved into a rented house, and we that was winter, and so in the spring, no work yet, and so Dad said we'll see if we can find a farm to rent. And we'd go out and then at least we could raise our vegetables and fruits and so forth.
Sure.
And so we found the farm.
And I have to tell our listeners that as we grew up, the stories of my mom's childhood always included talking about the farm.
Yes.
So about 10 years ago, we said, Mom, we've never seen the farm where you lived. So take us to the farm. So my son and my husband and I, my dad, flew to Chicago, drove to Indiana. Let's go find the farm. We didn't have the address, but Mom, of course, being as amazing as she is, drove us through the countryside and said, I think I remember that building, and I think I remember this school, and I think I remember that road. And somehow we magically, incredibly found the farm where she lived for that period of time.
Right.
And then we knocked on the door and there was someone living there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we explained to them, Mom, that Mom had lived there, Alice had lived there, and would they please let us in? And they did. And the thing that amazed me, Alice, was first of all, that house wasn't very big. And second of all, we went upstairs and you said, this was my room. We could not imagine. Tell us, how did you fit all those people into that house?
Well, we did it. I think that the rooms were small, There was one area that was just big enough for a bed. My one older sister that was home for a while stayed in that. That was her room, and then I had a room on the corner of the house.
Mhm.
And then the younger ones slept in beds together. So, but it was um, the thing about that house was that it was in a unique place. It was on a clay and a sand road.
Okay.
And so when it was wet, it slipped all over the place.
Oh, my.
It wasn't paved, and
Oh,
it was in an area that where they had what they called an airline, and it was a great big hill. Apparently, it was either natural, and they built a railroad from Chicago out there, and people from Chicago would get on the train, and it was cut in half by the time we were there, but the airline was still there, a big hill, big enough for a train to go on. And people from Chicago would get on the train and go out there and get off at that airline where the farm was, a little down farther a little bit,
mhm.
and have picnics. And then they'd get back on and never materialized any bigger anymore. We called that the airline.
That's interesting.
And then our farm was on this side of it. You know, things didn't happen that when we were there, that had all been over, and they'd had in a little inner urban train that came by on the
Mhm.
side down the road that went into, I think, Miller, Indiana or something. So but the mud, now today it's all paved and
Of course.
everything.
Of course.
And
So tell us about your time in the farmhouse. Did you have your own room?
I had my own room, yes.
Did you ever have, I guess you didn't have pets because you had animals on the farm, right?
We did. We had the farm was fenced in. A German family learned it, and the man wasn't what he needed to be when he get drunk. Why then he beat the horses. He had
Oh,
horses. They had a team of horses,
oh,
strawberry roans that were just beautiful, but they were scared of people
oh,
because of being getting. So my
oh,
dad loved horses, and his family had loved horses, and that's what they did that partially when he was a boy, and so that he said, don't ever even look like you were gonna
get the horse.
touch it. They'd run away.
Oh,
If the
of
gate, we
course.
had a big gate, and if the gate was open, they'd run down the road. We'd have to take the car sometimes and get them,
Oh,
pull them out of it, what they called the creek on the side of the road to get
Sure.
them home.
oh,
But they just prance like they thought they was gonna get beat again.
oh,
And of course, that didn't happen, when we had them. And so they got pretty good. So
they had a good, better life
but
with
I
you.
had Prince. I had a horse, Prince. It was brown, and that was my horse, and I rode him. And he kind of slipped once when I went to get the mail down the slippy road, but we made it. And so when we went back to the farm to see it, then those horses, there was two of them that were brown, and I said, Peter, my son-in-law, I said, how long do they live? Because
Oh.
he neighed when he saw me, and like we got out of the car and he neighed, and I said, oh, he knows who I am.
And this was when we went to see the farm a few years
Right,
ago, about 10 years ago.
right.
So yes, I know that growing up, we've heard you talk about your horse Prince. And so we know that you must have had a special relationship with Prince. And Alice, we've even heard you say that you never learned how to ride a bike, but because you rode your horse Prince and you
Right.
chose to ride Prince instead of a bicycle.
Right. But I also did, of course, I helped my dad and had to get up in the morning at 4 o'clock and go milk the cows, and then got the horses ready for the day and fed them and so forth. And then I'd go in the house and pack lunches for the rest of the family and walk a mile to get the bus to school.
What a big chore. And tell us about we were talking about pets though. So did you have a pet? Did you have something you kept in your own room? Were you allowed to have any pets or
Well, I had a fish. I
a
had
fish?
a fish in a bowl in my room. I had a room in the corner of the house upstairs, and of
Sure.
course, there's no heat upstairs, just one stove downstairs to keep you warm. And so the water would freeze in the wintertime with the fish in it. And so, and then when the sun come out in the window, then it would thaw out the water and the fish would go swimming around again.
Is that right?
Yes.
And the fish lived through the freezing
Yes.
water.
Yes.
That's pretty incredible.
Yes.
What a story.
So
What a
yeah.
story. So, and then, so did you grow your own chickens, or how did you work with
Well,
having
we
food?
ordered chickens and they delivered them. At that time, you ordered baby chicks, you could get them through the postman that drove his own car to deliver the mail. And he came in with a 36-inch square box of chickens, and they'd peeping around, and then you had to keep them warm so they would live and you till they got to a certain age, and then they can, and the weather was good enough to put them outside in a chicken house. So we did that.
And then they came, and when were they delivered, and what time of year then did they?
Well, they
grow up?
delivered in time. They always knew when to send them, so they would be growing as they were called spring chickens. They were called.
Is
when
that
they were
right? That's
young.
where the saying came
Yeah,
from?
they're young, and then the meat is better and so forth. And so, yeah, and then also we wanted them for eggs. So
Sure.
we saved the eggs up until we'd get 10 dozen, you know, in a case, kind of a square case that we'd keep in the basement, and then we'd take them and sell them, and we got 10 cents a dozen for them.
For the eggs?
Yeah,
Oh, my goodness. But then when the chickens grew up, did you eat the chickens?
we did.
That's what you did with
And
them.
Dad taught me how to prepare them to eat, and so I had to do all that work, and many of you might know how you do that, but
We don't need to be graphic on this radio show, huh?
no.
How you prepare the chickens for
Right,
eating.
right.
We'll just leave that alone.
Right.
The eggs, that's one thing. with
And the
chickens.
eggs, we always had, my mom would make biscuits for us for our sandwiches for school then, and then so we had deviled eggs for sandwiches. I never got tired of them, though. So still
never
have
got-
them.
Is that right?
Right.
So, and when you made the kids lunches for school, what did you make your brothers and
My
sisters
mom would
for
make
lunch?
biscuits. Sometimes she made her own bread too, though. But a lot of time we'd have biscuits with deviled egg in it. Mix it with a little mayonnaise, but she made her own mayonnaise.
Sure.
So, yeah, so then we did that. And then we started, and of course, then we grew vegetables and
Sure.
tomatoes and peas, and we put them in great big laundry tubs and peas. And my mom would say, don't eat them all because they're so good when they're young, and you shell them. We sit there and shell a great big tub full of peas to can.
Oh, yes,
And
of course.
So
Of course.
beans and things like that.
And were you the one that made the lunches for the kids to go to school? Was that
Yes.
kind of your job?
Yes.
And so you always just made sandwiches or something?
Right.
Yeah, that's interesting.
They'd have PTA meetings sometimes, and my
Mhm.
mom made the most delicious baked beans.
Oh,
And they were-
really?
And yes, and they were the regular baked beans, and all brown and everything, and so somebody asked if they would take some to PTA meeting one night, and although my parents never went, nor did we go, we knew that she made the biggest baked beans she could make, and so
Oh,
because they were the dark ones, when by the time she got through making them, they were like, you buy them in a can, only better. And because we raised our own beans too.
oh, Okay.
So we took this pan, we were so proud to take this big pan of baked beans to PTA meeting, and it didn't take them long to eat them. But when the other kids brought their baked beans, it was just plain beans with like you see beans and ham soup or something
Sure.
like that. The light color, and they weren't like my mom made. So we were always so proud of it. She finally let us take a big pan, although we
Aw.
never went to eat it. We wanted them to see our mom's baked beans.
Oh.
So we did that.
But how did you survive in the really difficult times? You had so many children. Certainly, we know being in the Midwest that there's a lot of winters and
Yeah.
even not in the winters during the Depression. How did you feed all of those kids? How did you feed your family?
Well, we raised potatoes,
Okay.
and we were never. My dad had a rule that we never idle, and so we'd take a kerosene can, a can with some kerosene in it, and he'd fix a couple sticks and go out in the potato patch and pick the bugs off of the potatoes.
Oh, my goodness.
And the same way with the corn, we always pulled the corn and made sure there wasn't any worms in, and also tomato, we'd take the worms off of tomatoes.
What a great story.
If we were playing someplace, he'd give us these cans and we had to go down the rows where we were raising those potatoes, and it was wonderful to pull a bunch of potato plant and see these potatoes if they were ripe or big enough to eat or
Sure.
whatever,
Of course.
you know.
But I
And-
remember you telling a story once about a time when you didn't have enough food. And what did your dad do? How did he tell you
Oh,
about that?
yes, yes, he came in and my mom, I think, couldn't stand to come out and tell us, so my dad came and said, we were sitting waiting for breakfast, and so he said, I'm sorry, but I have to tell you that we don't have anything for breakfast. And he says, I am fixing something for you, but it takes 3 days
Oh,
to get the corn ready to eat. And so that day, I think he went and got some snow. And otherwise, why, he made the popcorn. You know, try to pop corn or cook corn. And you put it on the back of a stove that you're burning wood with, or corn cobs or something. And you had to shell the corn off of the cobs first and then cook it. you
it
know.
must have broken his heart to have to tell you that.
Yeah, I'm sure it did.
That is so sad.
I'm sure it did.
And did all the kids go to school?
All of them, everybody went to school.
Everybody went to school.
Yeah.
And but then they moved, you left the farm, right?
Mhm.
And you didn't take Prince with you? Your horse Prince didn't get to go
No.
with you?
No, we left the farm, and of course, I missed the horses a great
Of
deal.
course.
But we lived downtown, not downtown, but we lived in town. And then I started my 6th and 7th grade. And that's the only 2 grades they had in this one school.
Oh,
And it was a middle school, that's what it was.
and then
So-
did you stay there all through high
We
school?
stayed there, no, I stayed there through the first year of high school, went to Valparaiso University.
Uh-huh.
It's a high school 1 year, and I loved the teachers and loved the people, they were wonderful, nice to us and so forth, and by the time Dad had been able to get some work to do, on houses and so forth, so things were getting better, so. And then from there, we moved to another house and went to a different school. One morning, I stepped off the curb and a car came and ran over my foot.
Oh, no.
Right in the gutter of this city street. And it was funny because the teacher was driving the car that she ran over my foot.
Oh, my goodness.
It didn't hurt it.
She must have felt terrible.
She did. But it didn't hurt it. It didn't seem to bruise it at all. So, of course, those cars weren't that heavy then, and the tires weren't that big,
Sure.
you know.
And then tell us about your graduation. Did you graduate from high school there?
Not there in Valparaiso. I went to Valparaiso High School a year. And then we moved again, and so then I wound up at another school that you had to go on a bus to one school and be transferred there to a little town named Wheeler High School. And so that was quite an experience. I was a very shy person. I wasn't one to speak out at all. And so I walked into the auditorium to this high school, and my face just turned red when he introduced me. And so the whole universe thing, I think we only had about 82 people in the whole high school. And so they all laughed at me, and that was it. I wasn't shy anymore.
Oh,
And so I had a great high school because we had a teacher. The principal was a man that belonged to the Friends Church, and he had a daughter my age,
oh,
and sometimes I'd forget to get on the bus, the right
Uh-oh.
bus, and he'd come over to the other school to get me and take me to school. And the government paid for a nurse's room, and I got $3 a month for that, for making the bed and keeping that up.
oh, my goodness. Oh,
And we had an assembly every morning, that he taught and told how to be nice to people and what to do, and so, and it was a great thing, and then you put on a little program.
Sure.
I know the girl that I made friends with, we wore some green, kind of like overalls to school once and did a tap dance thing for
Well, that's
one
important.
program.
That's important. And
Yeah.
Alice, then did you graduate from high school with your family, or did you stay behind?
Well, my folks moved again,
Oh,
and so a girl that that was a teacher at the one school that we going to do first said, "Come and live with me."
okay.
We became acquainted with her because there was a couple of girls that wanted me to come to church, and so my sisters and I all started going to church there, and everybody was so nice, and the parents and so forth. And so I stayed with her the rest of my senior year. But we put on little operettas.
Oh, fun.
And I have a tape that has this one operetta, the Mikado, that that I was in. So even I don't think we did the whole operetta because we didn't have enough people to do that. And then that was my senior year, and then my junior year, then somebody else was the lead part of another
Sure,
one. I
of
can't
course.
remember what that was. But we put on all kinds of shows for him, and he taught us with his violin. Our
Oh.
teacher was a violinist, and so he taught us church music for that's what we sang.
Sure,
Yeah.
of course. Yeah,
And it wasn't a church school, it was a public school, but that's
what you
yeah.
learned. We don't have a lot of time. We're getting close to the end of our hour, and I can see, as you can see, we've gotten not very far into Alice's life. We're still in high school, but let's skip over quickly to how and when you met your future husband. You met my dad, Manny Dieckilman, and you grew up as Alice Pearl Wright, correct? Which is a beautiful name. I love your middle name of Pearl, love Alice Pearl. And you met my dad. So tell us about that. We've got just a few minutes left to go, but I want to include that in today's program.
Well, we got involved. I got involved in going with we had a nice little church. It was just a very little church right next to a mill. And so there was a lady our mailman, that was our mailman when we first moved out there to Valparaiso. We used to sit on the hill at our house and watch for him to come, and he'd sit there and talk to us sometimes. And he lived in Valparaiso, and he went to church in Michigan City. And his daughter was very active in helping young people. And so they had conferences and everything for young people, and all the churches joined in this same thing. It wasn't just one church for one conference, it was all the kids went to the same thing. And we go and stay in the preachers' houses in different places. Cost 50 cents for a registration to go. And so she would get us, somebody would volunteer to pay the 50 cents for us.
Yeah.
And I know I stayed with we stayed, I think there were 3 of us that stayed at a minister's house once when we went, and that's when I met Manny.
And what was
he
this
took
called?
us home.
Oh, what was this called? This group?
It was part of a Christian Endeavor.
Christian Endeavor, was
Yes,
it? Right.
yes.
Okay.
And she was very active then. She did everything she did to get young people involved in.
So it was kind of like a club for young people, and it was, and all other churches could be a
Right,
part of this also.
It was a teaching organization more, so they learned what to do, how to tithe, and what you could do to help the church
And how to be a better person,
right,
those kind of
exactly.
things. Sure.
Mostly how to be a better person.
So you went to
Yes.
one of these meetings at a
Yes.
different church other than your own church.
Right.
Okay, and tell us what happened then.
Well, Manny took us home. I don't know the reason for whether this gal, I think, planned that they get the kids home. And so Manny had a car, and so he took us home, my sister and I and a couple other people, and dropped me off at my house. And then so my mom had just made a pie, and we asked her if we could invite him in to have a pie, and so he did. So we started dating after a couple of weeks or so after that. They came down to the church to help, and they'd bring some people to sing for our choir because we didn't have enough people to
Sure.
do that.
Yeah, of course. So
Yeah.
taking you home and your mom's pie, he was hooked, right?
Yeah,
Well, the side of the story I've heard, Alice, is pretty similar. That he said he did go to the Christian Endeavor meeting that night,
mhm.
and he said, I saw this pretty redhead and she needed a ride home. And I knew, and this is my dad speaking,
He did,
he said, and I felt like I needed to be the one to take her home, and I did, and I was hooked. And he
He
said
did.
it was kind of
right.
love at first sight, and he loved you then. So
Right.
that's pretty amazing. And how long after that, Alice, were you married?
He went to college and to Johnson Bible College. And so it was in like 30, well, I got married in 39 and I met him in 36.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Yeah, that's a great story.
and after I graduated, and then of course he didn't go on to school. He went 2 years. And then I guess, yeah, we were married in 39. So,
And you were married in Michigan City, Indiana.
right, because I went to, I needed a job. And he said, come and stay with my sister-in-law.
Oh,
And so I went and stayed with my sister-in-law, and her husband drove a Greyhound bus, and so he
oh, I
was
know who that is.
home a lot. And then
Sure.
and his mother, and then he had two nieces that were precious, and one had red hair, and but we were very close after that.
And so
So we
you
got married.
married my dad,
Mhm.
and then you through that Christian Endeavor group, and mostly the people in Michigan, these were all people in Michigan City at this point that you were
Yes.
closest to.
Yes,
And you started this, well, you kind of came together with this group that you called the gang,
yes,
right? You had a gang. And it's kind of hard to understand exactly what that is. These were all kids in Christian Endeavor. So you all went to church together, and you all then, and so here you were like in your early 20s,
Mhm.
right? Well, when you got married to dad, you were 19, you weren't 20, you were 20. And so you all hung around together,
yes,
and there were about 10 different couples, right?
right,
Plus your insurance salesman, Leonard Smith,
right,
and a couple of other people, and you called yourselves the gang,
right.
right? Is that right?
What happened was that the First Christian Church met in the basement of a building that they built.
Mhm.
And then Manny went to school from there, or
Oh,
college from there.
Sure.
And so I got a picture of him and they started building the upstairs.
Uh-huh.
So we set our wedding for that next year, and we were supposed to be the first ones married in the upstairs,
Oh, sure.
but they didn't have the seats fastened down, and so they didn't want anybody in there sliding the seats around. So we were the last ones to get married in the basement.
In the downstairs.
And we had a gym, and that's why they had so many young people, was because everybody wanted to bond to First Christian, but they only had to attend one meeting. We had all kinds of meetings during the week then. And so if you attended one meeting, you could play basketball. The boys could play basketball, or
So they all went there to hang around.
they all went there for use the gym and so forth.
Sure. And we
Yeah.
have so many stories that we're going to
Yeah.
tell there. We have just a few minutes. We're down to about 4 minutes.
Okay.
So, and we have so many more stories we can tell, and so many stories I want everyone to hear, and so many stories that actually start at this point going forward. We've gone through your life, your childhood, and so many nice times. You have such nice brothers and sisters, and just imagine our listeners and viewers having cousins and relatives, and now that mom is the last one, all of my cousins reach out to her and think so much of her, especially at this time and her
Right.
big milestone birthday, because all of
Right.
their parents are gone. So Alice, if you were to give some advice to someone of all the things that you learned growing up and the things that really made an impact on your life, and that if you could share those with someone else that you would want to give to them to help make their life better, what would you talk about?
I talk about the fact that the Bible tells you should love your neighbors. And even though you may not agree, that you can still love your people, the people that you deal with. And that's the thing. Keep the faith, love your neighbors, do good to those who will help you and not help you even. That's how you make friends. That's the way it's going to be. And everybody will get along fine.
So in other words, to be kind.
But be kind to everybody.
You
Right.
have so many stories yet to tell about the times that you have been kind to people and how
Yes.
people remember things. And we've got some great stories yet to tell of times when you stepped out and you were the one that was the kind one, and everyone remembers you for that. And I can think back now, I can see when you took the beans to school that your mom made, where that all started. And obviously you had a very kind and generous and loving mom and dad.
Mhm.
We want to thank you today for being with us. Any parting words for everyone about this part of your life?
I would say that I've had so much fun. I've gone through college with my children, and I just had a lot of fun with them. I knew their friends, had fellowship with their friends. They all know me, and they were at our house a lot. We were a house of young people.
Always, where our doors were
Yeah.
always open.
I just, like that, my youngest son said, Mom's and doors always, no matter what. I had just kept lots of missionaries on the field and in and
So
out.
many people stayed at our house, and
Yes,
we, and so many stories, and we want you to come back, our viewers and our listeners, come back again. And then you're going to hear about how we fed 20 boys for breakfast on about a 1 hour notice when there was absolutely no food in the house.
right.
And you're gonna hear stories about my dad's friends turning him in for traffic tickets and sending him to jail. And you're gonna hear about how we survived in tough times and how
Yeah.
we made it home when we were in 6-foot snow drifts. So please don't forget to come back. We want you to come back again next week and every week, Monday at 3 p.m. for Always Ageless. And if there's anything we can do to help you and your family members know where is the best place for you to go next, whether you're whether you're facing a transition in your life as a senior, or you're the child of an aging parent and you don't know exactly how to help your parents make it through their next phase and their transition, please reach out to us. Our number is at the bottom, and we would love to hear from you. Any questions you have, or any questions you have for Alice, who's going to be on our next episode. Thank you very much for being with us today. Always Ageless with Valerie V. And thank you, Alice, for being our guest.
Thank you for asking me.
You're always welcome.
I've enjoyed it thoroughly.
Thank you.
And everybody have a good time and be happy.
We hope that everyone does. Thank you, Alice.
Okay.